We are live again. Welcome to Break 'em Downs, guys. This is the third episode of our new video podcast, and we are a show dedicated to the world of UFC. It's an exciting world with lots of great fights, great characters, and it gives us a lot of content to talk about. On tonight's episode, we take a look at Dominic Reyes' crushing victory over Chris Weidman. We analyse Yair Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stephens 2, a fight which I think has lived up to the hype. Colby Covington has come out and said he'll slap Dana White. We'll talk about that. And then Greg Hardy's win has been overturned to no contest for an illegal use of an inhaler. That and more on this episode of Break 'em Downs. So starting with the card last night, an absolutely brilliant three main fights. Obviously, starting with the Greg Hardy fight against I can't remember the guy's name now. Is it Sosili? So Hardy appeared to outstrike Sosili. He fought well. The aspiring heavyweight seems to be getting in his own way, though. If you haven't seen it, he was sitting on a stool, and he asked for an inhaler. He can be heard saying that the inhaler is USADA approved. Clearly not, because that has been overruled as a no contest, despite having his hand raised at the end of the fight. Dana White has actually come out and criticised Greg Hardy on his behaviour. I don't know what he's thinking in that situation. I mean, when do you ever see that? When do you ever see a fighter sitting on the stool then taking an inhaler? You just don't see it. There is speculation about the substances in the inhaler. Some people have actually said that it is a legal supplement. Some people have alluded to the amount of those supplements that you can take. They need to be under a certain amount, and Greg Hardy's what he took in was legal. But even at that, you've never seen it in UFC before. You never see a fighter sitting on the stool taking an inhaler. So yeah, Greg Hardy's win overturned to no contest due to illegal use of inhaler. His team plans to appeal. I don't think they're going to have much luck there. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes peeled on that one. But as I said, the heavyweight seems to keep getting in his own way. So Dominic Reyes' crushing victory over Chris Weidman. If you haven't seen it, for Chris Weidman, he couldn't have chose a harder fight coming in to the light heavyweight division. Same for Luke Rockhold. They both took on really, really tough fights. Rockhold, obviously, he got beat by Juan Blachowicz. I actually predicted on the second podcast that Chris Weidman would take the win. I thought stylistically this match made sense. I thought that with Weidman's wrestling, his striking ability, he would be able to take him down and do work. He got him down at the start of the fight. A bit of a surprise takedown. He changed levels pretty quickly. Reyes looked annoyed with himself when he went down. But yeah, he was certainly caught by surprise. He got up rather easily. Once he got up, Weidman continued to look for more takedowns, all of which were snuffed by Dominic Reyes. When the opening came for Reyes, he took it. He exploited it in the best fashion possible. Beautiful left hand. Weidman missed with a right. Overreached, missed with the right, and then Reyes caught him with the left. Weidman goes down. I also love the composure of Reyes once Weidman was on his back. He didn't rush in. He didn't panic. He looked for his opening. He passed the feet, and then he landed a rather clinical swipe, landing on Weidman's chin, finishing the fight. So it was pretty emphatic, to be honest. And having doubted Dominic Reyes in the run-up to the fight, I must say at this point, I mean, I'm going to have to start taking this guy seriously. It was wins over Conair, it was wins over Chris Weidman, um, a disputed win over Volkan Ozdemir, saying that, he is really on a tear right now, and interesting to know who he fights next. Is it the winner of Johnny Walker and Corey Anderson? That would make sense. Or do those guys do one of those guys get a title shot? Could it be that he fights Anthony Smith? Anthony Smith is obviously there's no fight booked for him at the moment, so it would be interesting to see those two go at it. But certainly at this point, I'm going to have to start taking this guy seriously. Chris Weidman looked a bit small in there last night. He, as I say, he didn't take on the easiest contest. He didn't start, with someone a little bit lower down, trying to find his feet in the division, and then start working his way up. And we have seen twice now that has been met with devastating results. Rockhold and Weidman on their behalf. Interesting to see if Jacare Souza meets the same fate. So he's got his fight with Juan Blachowicz coming up pretty soon. I'm actually just going to bring up just on my phone, I'm going to bring up the Sherdog just so I can see when that fight is taking place. Here we go. So that is the 16th of November. So we are a little under a month. UFC Fight Night 164. Interesting to see whether Jacare can avoid meeting the same fate as Weidman and Luke Rockhold. Rockhold came out and said that he is not really interested in fighting at the minute. His commitment has been questioned quite a few times, but from my point of view, if you are in the UFC, you are fighting the best in the world week in, week out, and you can't have that 1 foot in, 1 foot out attitude. If that is how Rockhold is feeling, then certainly maybe it is time to call it a day. He's got other avenues in his life. He's got a modeling career, I think, with Ralph Lauren, and possibly others. But certainly, at this moment, he's moved up. He's been beaten rather very convincingly by Blachowicz. So where does he go from now? Talking about who Reyes may fight next. I may be forgetting somebody there. But who does Weidman fight next? That'd be interesting to see. Does he go back down? Does he look at last night and think, you know what, I'm the small guy in this division now. This wasn't the right decision. Anyway, so moving on, we're going to talk about the Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stephens fight of the night on UFC ESPN 6. It was a great fight. Obviously, won by Yair Rodriguez via a unanimous decision. I think the decision, it's non-controversial. Yair Rodriguez certainly did enough to win over the judges, in my opinion, all three judges. So I absolutely agree with that. Jeremy Stephens did take one round, I believe, and that was the third round. But what he managed to achieve in that round at that point wasn't really enough. So the fight started, and what really impressed me was how Yair Rodriguez was keeping distance. He was using his kicks to keep Stephens at range, and when Stephens tried to load up, Yair was kind of going to the gut, kicking him in here, keeping him away. So I was really impressed by that. I was also impressed by Yair's hands as well. When they did get a little bit closer, he was able to avoid big shots. I don't really recall Yair taking overly big shots from Jeremy Stephens, which can prove to be fatal. Fatal's probably the wrong word there, isn't it? But can prove to lead to TKOs or KOs pretty handily. But Yair didn't really. He managed to evade the Jeremy Steven onslaught, and he outstruck him for 2 rounds. The second round in particular, Rodriguez using the space again. There was a beautiful moment where he kind of stands in front of Stevens. Stevens is kind of waiting to unload, and then Yair hits him with a lovely kind of kick to the liver. That kick to the liver forced Stevens down. Stevens didn't really recuperate after that. So a lot of the second round, Stevens was actually recuperating from that initial shot. When Yair put him down, he was pretty aggressive. He was looking for the finish. And there was moments where I thought the referee was actually going to step in and make that call. But he gave Jeremy Stephens the opportunity to recover. And to his credit, Jeremy Stephens is one tough guy. He stayed in there. And actually, at the end of that second round, he managed to get himself back to his feet. Had Yair, for a short period, pressed up against the cage, backed up, and was trying to land a few shots of his own. Yair fell victim of kind of burning out at the end of the second round, and that's something that he's going to need to be careful of as he moves forward. But it was clear to me that, as I said, the fight was done by the end of the second round. Unless Jeremy Stephens could land a TKO or knockout. So I think the second round was a 10-8. So you got 10-9, 10-8, and then probably in favour of Yair, and then a 10-9 for Jeremy Stephens in the third and final round. So that's how I scored him. So where does Yair go now? Well, the fight that we all want to see now is the Zabit fight. I think that's the one that makes most sense. There was talk of that fight happening in the past. It never really materialized. And I'll be honest, at times I've questioned Yair's, his mental game. And the reason why is because of the long layoff after the defeat to Frankie Edgar, where he spent like 2 years on the sidelines. I think he even retired from UFC and then got re-signed, as far as I can remember. So he's put all that behind him. He's got 2 great wins now, against 2 of the best in the featherweight division. He's taken out the Korean Zombie with that unbelievable elbow. And he has taken out Jeremy Stephens. So Yair's definitely now looking at a fight in the kind of the top 5, top 4 region. So based on last night's evidence, I think he can go toe to toe with Zabit in terms of striking. Jeremy Stephens' issue last night, and this is something that he's been doing lately. He tends to wait. I mean, he tends to try to counter, but he waits too long. So he's standing in this position quite a lot, like ready to go, but sometimes he just doesn't go, and he's allowing other fighters to land first and do damage. And then in the case of Yair last night, he put him down with that liver kick. So yes, it'll be good to see Stephens bounce back. I'm a fan of Stephens. He's an exciting fighter. So who knows who he's going to fight next? We will keep our eyes peeled on that one. Okay, so Colby Covington has, done another Covington move, which is to kind of piss people off. He's come out and said he'll slap Dana White in the face if if Dana tries to put the UFC belt on him, should he be victorious against Kamaru Usman. Dana's come out and obviously said that Colby's a big mouth idiot or something along those lines. So Dana looked pretty pissed off with Colby. And, I think in this case, we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. But, is there any need for this behaviour? Absolutely not. Colby needs to be careful in these cases here, because you piss people like Dana White off one too many times. This could be your last title shot. Do you know what I mean? If you build up this rivalry, this kind of hatred towards Dana White, it doesn't really do you any favors. And I think people like Tyron Woodley or Brendan Schaub will actually vouch for this. You don't want to piss off the guy who, at the end of the day, is going to give you the best fights, who's deciding your pay, who's deciding whether or not you get a title shot. And that's what Colby's doing in this case. I don't think there's any need for it. Where does it come from? I'm not sure. Maybe Colby thinks that he's waited too long for this opportunity, which would be a fair enough point. He was also annoyed in relation to the negotiation period before this fight came to fruition. He said that he was offered. He wasn't offered a substantial, a just amount based on the work that he's done over the last few years, and fair enough. So look, Colby needs to just kind of watch himself there and not tread on his boss's toes too much. Otherwise, he's gonna fall victim to the same fate as others have before him. So I think I've covered all of those topics. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up a few of the fights that we are looking forward to now, guys, over the next few weeks. So next Saturday night, 26th of October, we've got UFC Fight Night 162, Askren versus Maia. Now, that's going to be an interesting fight. I think that's the fight that will tell us whether Askren actually belongs in the upper echelon of UFC. We know he's had a very successful career outside of UFC, but he's come in and he's looked less than convincing with he got a bit of an ass kicking against Robbie. Fortunate enough to get the victory there due to a mistake from Herb Dean. And then obviously Jorge finished him in 5 seconds. I'll be watching that fight. That's an interesting one. Askren, obviously a grappling specialist. Maia, a grappling specialist. Maia is a black belt of the highest caliber in UFC. I would say the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in UFC. So again, we go on to the 2nd of November then, and then we've got Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz at UFC 244. And that card, again, is looking absolutely tasty. There's some beautiful fights on that particular card, but that main event is going to be absolutely fantastic. But, just some of those fights, I'm going to read them to you quickly. We've got Darren Till and Kelvin Gastelum. We've got Corey Anderson and Johnny Walker. We got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Vicente Luque, who looked really impressive in his last fight against Mike Perry. We got Derek Lewis and Ivanov. We've also got Arlovsky in that card. Kevin Lee and Gregor Gillespie. It is just absolutely stacked. And there's more big guys on there, like Brad Traveris is on there. We've got Shane Burgos as well. So a lot to look forward to, and I've already alluded to this last fight here. We've got Blachowicz versus Jacare. So lots to look forward to over the remainder of October and moving into November for UFC fight fans. Anyway, guys, a little bit shorter than our usual podcast. I've gone through everything that I wanted to tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Subscribe to us down below, please. Give us a thumbs up. And thank you for joining me on this episode of Break 'em Downs.